you have to remain authentic in everything that you put out, in your interactions.
Yeah.
I've never tried to, chase trends or again, like completely deviate from like what I was passionate about just because like certain things were working for other people. I always just kind of stayed in my lane. So I think that, that's super important because even if people find you, again, if you're kind of like sending a mixed message of who you are, what styles of music you play, it just, I think you're going to confuse potential clientele.
Welcome to The Right Fit. Today, we're joined by DJ Monopoli, also known as Dan, a multi-award-winning DJ with more than 17 plus years in the entertainment industry. Dan has built a career that spans weddings, DJ battles, and major sports entertainment. He currently serves as an in-game DJ for the New York Knicks and the Rangers at the one and only Madison Square Garden and has worked over the years with the Jets and the Mets. But today we're going beyond the music and getting to know the man behind the career, the lessons, and the journey that got him here. So I promise viewers and anybody listening, I didn't ask Dan to come on to The Right Fit, but welcome because of the recent championship series that he was a part of. But let's address the elephant in the room. The New York Knicks did take the championship and brought it home. So let's start with there. Did you have a moment yet after the last couple of weeks to even process what's been happening, what's been going on? Tell us a little bit about that.
No, I thought it was going to be right now. I thought you were going to add NBA champion DJ to my intro.
I gotta update the bio. Yeah.
No, I mean, it definitely, as I continue to go through social media and see posts about the Knicks, it's like every time I see something, I'm like, wow, like it really happened. It really happened. And like, I just recently started like watching back some of the content that I gathered over the playoffs and I get like goosebumps. I still can't believe it happened. It's like finally clicking that this really, not just like the opportunity to be there, but like being a fan my whole life and like actually getting to see them win a championship. I'm like, holy cow, it actually happened.
Yeah, that's got to be wild for multiple reasons, not just because you happen to be their DJ, but also you just were a lifelong fan. So it's like twofold.
Yeah.
To feel not only a sense of like maybe just being proud as a young boy who always wanted them to win, but I can't even imagine the energy in that space as a viewer, somebody who no longer religiously watches basketball as I used to, but I used to growing up. I can't even imagine what it felt like being there or even just being at some of the other spaces that you were at while they were at away games.
Yeah. I mean, the atmosphere is really special. New York as a whole, New York sports, everyone knows, right? It's we're so passionate. New York and in New Jersey, of course, because, technically I'm from North Jersey, but we claim New York. But
yeah.
Our fan base is super passionate. So even like you said, the away games when we did watch parties, the atmosphere that we were able to create between, just the fans and what they bring on a nightly basis and then what we try to do from a game presentation standpoint, musically, visually, it creates something that just, it can't be duplicated. And then, of course, when you have the success of the team layered on top of that, it's, again, like it will stick with me for the rest of my life.
That's amazing. That's one thing that I'm sure you can hang up on a wall somewhere and look to be proud of about, for years to come. And that's such a cool thing.
100%.
I'm sure. So when we're talking about this experience that you had, it wasn't an overnight thing, not only just for the Knicks, but not for you either, right? Getting into sports is a whole different animal, I guess you could say, maybe. If you don't know about the DJ world, it's a whole different thing. It's not what it looks like on TV, maybe, as you might think.
Mm-hmm.
But let's take a few steps back and talk about how did you even get the opportunity to be a sports DJ? Like, how does one say, I'm going to be a sports DJ and then get that opportunity? Like,
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's a really long story. I'll try to kind of condense it down as best I can. But, obviously as a DJ, we're constantly brought all different types of opportunities and, we make different relationships and you just never know when one is going to kind of turn into the next. I was contacted by the New York Jets initially to interview for their stadium DJ position. And in that process, made some relationships, got to meet some people. And it's funny because I think back now to those interviews where they were like, how do we know you can do this? Like, you've never done a sporting event.
Right.
And I couldn't point to something and be like, hey, here's an example of like the fact that I have experience in this. I just had other DJ experience. I'm like, I did like a cruise ship. There was like 5,000 guests. I did, I'm trying to think of like the largest events I did. ultimately did not get that job, probably because I couldn't point to anything. But again, I made a relationship, and that relationship then turned into that gentleman moving over to Madison Square Garden and made a phone call and was like, would love to bring you in, would love to chat. And what I tell everybody is it was not just like as easy as that. There was another phone call that was like, it's not going to be that easy. What are you willing to kind of like help us with? I started cutting music. You know what I mean? So literally I'm just like on Ableton trying to just create unique sounding tracks that could back their videos at a live event. Then that transitioned into an opportunity with the Westchester Knicks, which is, they play up in Westchester County. It's kind of like a high school gym. It's definitely not glamorous, but it gave me my opportunity to be like, okay, now I've done a live sports event. So I've, kind of get a little bit of a taste of like what it's like and how it differs from normal DJing. And then obviously from there, once I got comfortable, I was able to kind of put my stamp on it. And I think that's ultimately, the right people were in the room a couple times. And then that led to a couple opportunities at the, I call it the Big Knicks.
Yeah.
In the actual, in Madison Square Garden, the real deal. And the rest is history after that, just kind of taking advantage of opportunities. But it was a long road of, again, starting with a failure, which I think is the biggest takeaway for me, is like that moment of not getting that Jets position. I felt like I literally had fumbled the biggest opportunity that had ever come in front of me. So the fact that it was then, slowly but surely was able to turn into literally my dream job is just a testament to like, you just never know. Like you can't hang it up just because one thing doesn't go your way. Like you have to keep pursuing it.
Man, I love that. And I think that this could hopefully resonate with so many different people who are in different parts of their journey, because I feel like we're always pursuing something or evolving or maybe trying to do something different. Maybe in 10, 20 years from now, there could be something else for you. And those no's are hard on our ego sometimes. Let's be honest, right? Like we overthink, or what could I have done differently? What could I have done better? Whatever. But at the same time, look where it got you. Look where you are. That, like you called it, the dream opportunity job that you've always, hopefully, couldn't even probably imagine as a kid. But now you're just like, yes, this is where I need to be. This is where I should be. I think that's a beautiful thing. And, for this show, for our viewers, for our listeners, it's really not just about the technical aspect of what the person does. I mean, I think it's important, we'll talk a little bit about some things maybe possibly, but it's really that journey of how we got where we are, but also how it's just not that straight and narrow. It's not that, smooth, right? Because you mentioned social media. Now you're reflecting on your social media. Well, that's what people reflect when they watch your stuff, Dan. They look at your social media and like, wow, this guy is so lucky. He's, got millions of views and he gets to be the DJ for the Knicks and he gets to do this, right? But they don't get to see what Dan had to do to get to all those things and to be where he's at. And he still, I'm sure, is working at it all the time. It's not just like, oh, well, I got it, so I'm good.
Yeah, no, definitely not. Now I need to keep it.
That's what they say.
Now I need to figure out, what's the next thing?
Yeah.
How do I continue to elevate? And like, again, like you can't just hang your hat on what you've accomplished and just, that's that. It's always what's next. It's always, how can I improve? How can I bring more to the table? The same way you would in a normal job, right? You're trying to elevate, you're trying to provide more value to your employer or whatever it is, year after year. It's the same thing for us.
Yeah. No, and I think another point that you mentioned is that for whatever it's worth, I'm sure you didn't half-ass that interview. It sounds like you gave it what you could.
No, definitely not. Yeah, I prepared as much as I possibly could have.
Yeah. But that still translated into something. So always a reminder that you give it your all. And even if you get that no at first, it doesn't always mean that it's going to be forever. Because look, it opened the door, and it maybe wasn't the ideal door at the moment, but it kept opening other doors. And look where what happened. And I mean, maybe you could touch briefly on this. Clearly, it opened more doors because you also have worked with the Rangers and the Mets and done other things. You've done FIFA World Cup stuff. You've done, what was the tennis thing that I saw you
US
do?
Open.
The US Open. I mean,
yeah, the sports world is very interconnected.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, again, going back to what I was asked in that interview, which was, do you have sports experience? It is so critical. And now, as somebody who has years of sports experience, I fully understand why that was so critical, because there is just such a distinction between normal DJing and then what a sports DJ is asked to do at a live sporting event. So once I had the opportunity with the Knicks, obviously, it was an easy transition into Rangers simply because Madison Square Garden has both organizations. Very different musically, very different from a show perspective. But nonetheless, that experience of just, being able to work under pressure, not just play music, but like truly understand like how things are impactful, how they can be more impactful or less impactful, depending on how you play something, when you play something. And then, again, those relationships just start to compound in the sports world because they're like, oh, he also does this. So he's definitely comfortable doing this and this, whereas like, when we do weddings and we do things like that, sometimes people put us in a box, like they can only do this. It almost works to our advantage in the sports world because they're like, no, that's exactly what we need. We need you to be good at sports DJing. Being an actual great DJ is almost like just like a little the icing on top.
Right.
Because there's so few opportunities where we actually get to like mix and play records, which is what we hang our hat on at every other event. It's just like, that's the thing. Like that, book me for that. But it's kind of like, it's literally the asterisk when it comes to sports DJing.
Man, it's once again unique perspectives because the outsiders might not know these things, and at the same time, it's also, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Has this experience or this different skill set that you've essentially improved on over the years, being a sports DJ, has it spilled over and helped you in any other areas of your DJing life?
Absolutely. I think specifically with weddings, I think it's in the sports world where it's pressure. It's constant pressure because, people just think of like the fourth quarter when like games on the line, like those critical moments. But ultimately, we're on the world's biggest stage. There's 19,000 people, I always joke, that are ready to tweet like that you did something wrong or you played something inappropriate. So like you really have to be sharp the whole way through. Music is such a big piece of when you attend a live sporting event. So every cue, every song choice is pretty much under a microscope.
Yeah.
So that the stress, and like initially I would have called it stress. It was like stress and anxiety of like having that on your shoulders throughout the whole course of the game.
Yeah.
I don't really feel it as much anymore because again, now it's almost like, an athlete says like the game slowed down. That's almost how I feel. Like now it's this is normal. Now it gets me excited. It's no longer stress and anxiety. It's excitement. Of course, a little bit of nervousness, which I think,
It's normal.
again, making the connection to weddings, we all get a little bit nervous, but we just want everything to be perfect. We care about the little details. So I think when it comes to a wedding now, when we're going through things with our couples, I'm like, this is nothing compared to what I'm used to
Right,
4 days a week, on that stage, whether it be the Knicks or Rangers or elsewhere. So it's kind of taking that edge off completely. So now, like, just again, making sure that everything is perfect and being able to go through those fine details and executing perfectly every single time, that I attribute to my sports experience 100%.
It's amazing, how it's made you've become better for it. I have a random, maybe not random, you've probably been asked this question before, but I guess before we move on from the sports stuff, since you kind of mentioned it a few times, how would a DJ, right? Like, I wouldn't even say younger because the DJ doesn't have to be younger, but somebody who wants to get into the sports world with zero experience, like how to, it's like one of those you see the job posting and then they have the opening, but then you need 20 years of experience. You're like,
Yeah.
I don't, how do I get the job? Like, I'm ready, but how do I do it?
Exactly. I do get asked that often, and especially, since attending some of the DJ conferences recently, like that's the number one question, of course. And it's a difficult question for me to answer because again, like how it came to be for me was pretty organic. And, I was working with an agency that initially made that connection. So of course that I have to, attribute some of this to that. But ultimately, I think people need to seek out maybe just like those really base level sports positions. There's sports teams everywhere. We all think of the major league in every different sport, but there's minors to almost every sport. There's high school, there's college, there's so many layers to this. All of them can benefit from, someone that can play music and just take the energy of a facility of like that event to another level. And of course, it's not glamorous, but that would be where I would start. Like if I was to go back, I would start seeking out those different teams and just kind of like, and trying to find the ones that maybe are a little reflective of my personality. So, I'd probably gravitate towards basketball first, maybe like a St. John's or some of these teams that are local that,
Yeah.
you know,
They do big stuff too, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But, as long as you can kind of get your foot in the door there, because then again, that's when you can kind of, your perception of what sports DJing is will
Yeah.
then take shape, and it will start to change from what you thought it was.
Yeah.
When I went to that interview and I had prepared some examples of things that I thought
Yeah.
I would play. Now looking back, they were horrible choices. But again, like you need that experience to shape, just again, like how you're going to approach everything the same way any other type of event too. Like we learn over the years what works and what doesn't. So I would just start there. Then you can turn when other opportunities present themselves. You can say, yes, I do have sports experience. Actually,
Yeah.
It may be on a small scale, but ultimately, like I understand what you're looking for. It's just more fans. That's the only difference.
Correct. Yes. And honestly, I feel like it translates to so many different worlds, whether you're a photographer or whatever. Like there could be portrait photography, wedding photography, and it's like just because you're good at one doesn't necessarily mean you fully understand the other. Although some little things might translate a little bit. So I think that's great for somebody who is looking to maybe get into that field. Just do that. Almost like, what do I call it? Almost like your observation hours, right? Because you keep on saying you might not think you know what it is, or it might not be what you really want it to be, because it might not. You might go there and be like, yeah, I definitely don't want to do this. Or you might be like, I love this, you don't know.
I tell DJs, like, you may not really think like that you want to do this once you do it, because it's not. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. It's just not the same as like when we play at a club or when we play someone's wedding, where you have more opportunities to really showcase and be creative and like, I'm really good. Let me show you.
Right.
You don't necessarily get those opportunities. So you really, it's kind of like, it's like the team first, the organization, the whole, as a whole, that direction, that vision comes first. Like execute that perfectly. Then you get those little tiny windows here and there where you can creatively put your stamp on it. And then of course you can step into that. But first comes like just like being able to understand the execution part, which is not glamorous. It's following a script.
How long you been the Knicks DJ? Give or take?
So I officially started with Madison Square Garden in 2017, but didn't transition to, again, the big Knicks until 2020.
Okay.
Pandemic year. So it was interesting too, because I came in when there were no fans. So again, I think that worked in my favor because there was less pressure.
Okay.
Empty arena. We were still wearing masks.
Wow.
Then we opened up to 2,500 fans. So it's almost like it was like the perfect opportunity for me to learn on the fly in a less stressful environment, and then it built up, and then bam, we were in the playoffs for the first time in 7 or 8 years at that point, and back to full capacity.
Right.
In the blink of an eye.
Crazy. And before this is the last comment I'm going to make on the sports stuff, because I do want to move on, is for the people out there, once again, if you're early on in your journey, sometimes it does take years to build. Dan has been working with the Knicks for quite some time, officially for 6+ years. Yes, they won the championship and all that, but I'm still seeing people saying, I didn't know you were the next DJ. So once again, going back to like that glitz and glamour and what people know, sometimes people don't even know who's up there, playing the music.
Most of the time. I mean, that's probably, one of the main reasons why my last post went viral, is because people were just like, holy cow, that's the person. That's, and I always say like, I'm one of the people responsible. I'm not the only DJ. Shout out to DJ Rumor. He's the other resident DJ. He's been holding it down longer than me. But again, like, we don't get those opportunities to really like, shine or be like put up on the Jumbotron. So people were pretty much realizing for the first time, and they were like, holy cow, like, all right, I'll follow him. That's kind of cool.
Okay. There's a real person up there.
Yes. Oh, it's not just somebody pressing buttons. Okay, cool.
So there has to be passion behind it. And over the years, with your DJing career evolving, you've been in different parts of this journey. But you have mentioned weddings a few times when we were talking about the sports thing. So let's talk about that. What what was the lightning bulb that went on in your brain that said, okay, I'm going to start focusing a little bit more on weddings? Like, when did that start and why?
Yeah, I think I had a couple opportunities early on with, friends and friends of friends that just knew I was a DJ. Of course, we're probably on a very tight budget. And that was like my first foray into weddings. I shadowed some larger companies and, was always kind of just taking an inside look as to how people were doing things in the private event world. And I think initially it gave me a bad perception of just that, as a whole, weddings, private events, it all seemed like super cookie cutters, super cringy in a lot of ways, just like very like stuck in old ways, old traditions. And
Right.
musically, I was, especially early on, I was very stuck with just the idea. My turntables are right there. I was like, I'm not changing my style for a
Yeah.
wedding.
Right.
So like you're gonna hear these cuts and these scratches, and like if I want to juggle a record, I'm gonna juggle a record at your wedding. Like, so I was kind of a little hard headed, and obviously it didn't jive. So I think it just, in my head, I was like, I'm not meant to do weddings. This is not ever gonna work out. As I've matured, and of course my style has evolved, I think I've just been lucky in that like I'm finding the right couples that just overall, like the underlying thing is just an appreciation for somebody who understands music, can play a wide range of music comfortably, and like, they appreciate like the nuances. They appreciate somebody who could just keep things seamless, and all the little details that I think are often glossed over. I'm finding those couples that are like, no, like that's actually stuff we listen for and we appreciate. So that has led me to be like, okay, like I already pour my heart and soul in every event. It's, and you can attest to this, like when you do that for someone's wedding, it's like, it's a whole nother level of satisfaction. And so, especially at the end of a wedding, when somebody comes up and they express their gratitude and they tell you that you really hit a home run, it makes all the prep work, all that so worthwhile.
For
So
sure.
it's just, that transition has just happened naturally, just finding the right people. The events are successful. It makes me more passionate and more excited to find more couples like that. And, as I take on more and more, it's allowed me to continue to grow as a DJ, as a person, to try to figure out again, like, how do I continue evolving? How do I continue leveling up, like what I provide to these couples? Like what I do is fantastic, but like, again, it's never enough. Like I want to do more. I want to be able to bring more to the table. So it's a never ending chase.
I mean, and that's amazing for, I think, for the evolution of who DJ Monopoly is, was, will be, right? Because it's always a thing. You even reflected on yourself as you labeled it maturity level. You labeled it, that you just maybe needed some open-mindedness because you were being a little stubborn at the time, or as you felt. But I think we all go through those points in our evolution and whatever we are doing in our entrepreneurial journey. And I think that's okay, right? As long as you reflect, grow, learn. And the other part to that is finding your tribe, right? It sounds like you found your people who appreciate what you do, right? Because there is I feel like with weddings, there's like a happy medium. We're there to serve as well. It's a couple and we want to make their day as amazing as possible. But if we lose too much of ourselves as a creative, let's call it, because I don't want to just label it just for DJs only. I'm talking, it could be a photographer, it could be a cake maker, video, whatever. It's all creativity to me. If you start losing yourself too much and saying, yeah, you could do that as a DJ, you could say, yeah, I could do that. But then like you're going to be there miserable the whole night and be like, I just did yeah, you could do that, versus like hey, I'm going to work with you but you're going to work with me, and we're going to work together on this thing to create an amazing experience, versus like I always share the story where I've had people saying like, hey, I'm going to give you this playlist and I'm going to need you to play it, song by song, almost like in this order. And it's like, no, like no, that's the point that I say, no, like we're at an extreme here. We're not
Sure.
meeting nowhere in the middle. And then that happens too. But where I'm trying to get at with all this is, how did you find your tribe? How did you start attracting these people? Because there's got to be something that you did or something that you put out there. How did you start finding them or attracting them?
Yeah. I mean, I think first and foremost, you have to remain authentic in everything that you put out, in your interactions.
Yeah.
I've never tried to, chase trends or again, like completely deviate from like what I was passionate about just because like certain things were working for other people. I always just kind of stayed in my lane. So I think that, that's super important, because even if people find you, again, if you're kind of like sending a mixed message of who you are, what styles of music you play, it just, I think you're going to confuse potential clientele. So I think that part of it, and then of course content, right? I mean, that's got to play a role, because it's again, I'm putting out what I want to attract more of.
Yeah.
So when I'm showing things like, even if somebody has me play Shut Up and Dance, I'm probably not going to put that out as a piece of content, because it's not a record that I'm passionate about. It's not something that I think is reflective of me as a DJ and my style. I'm there for the client. If they want to hear Shut Up and Dance, you're going to hear it.
Yeah,
That's all good. But I think when
I
I choose the piece of content to put out, I want to put out stuff that's a little bit more reflective of like the clients that I want to attract. So, sometimes that's, hip hop and R&B is the genres that I'm most passionate about. But again, I think it's when I get to play a little bit of everything, and I'm able to like bring stuff together in a way that just feels like they're meant to go together. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure you have clients too that are like, we want a little bit of everything. We love old music, but like we don't want it to feel too old, because we want newer music, but like, we want stuff that people know and not like too new. And, and you're trying to figure out like, what exactly are you even asking for?
Yeah.
And then, again, like musically presenting that to a crowd in a way that they all can digest it. Like that's the beauty of it. So I try to put out stuff that, and it's hard, but stuff that really just kind of reflects that.
No, I mean, I think that's important. You got to put out what's reflective of you. Like you said, authenticity, I feel like is so important. Something that I've talked about with previous guests on the show, something that I feel like is also becoming a thing that is being muddied a little bit, because like you mentioned, the whole trends and what's popular out there. So for example, even if I jump on a trend, I'm going to make it me, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
It's still going to be like, okay, that was Christian or that was DJ Menace, whatever. And it could be maybe a sense of humor or whatever it is that I feel like is reflective of me. And for Dan, it could be something different. So for anybody listening, it could be so important for you to still always add your flavor, your touch, and who you are. Because I feel like when I speak to some people who are complaining about their clientele, because I have spoken, not necessarily on this show, but just in general, when I speak to certain vendors or people in the industry, whether it's entertainment, weddings, whatever, and they're complaining about their clients, And I'm like, what are you putting out there? Because what you're putting out there is probably what's attracting these people. And a lot of times it is that, I'll look at some stuff and I'm like, well, you're throwing out these signals and you're catching the fish, but you're not catching the right one. But this is the bait that you're putting out there. So like, what do you expect?
Yep.
And I think it's never, once again, an easy thing for everybody to just like know exactly how to create stuff and content and get it. It's not everybody's strong suit, but at a minimum, it could be a picture, of how you dress, how you carry yourself. It could be a lot of things, right? Because clients are looking at that stuff too, right? How do you represent yourself? How do you look? And I think it's important to keep in mind. So with weddings, they've evolved for you, it seems, from what we did in our research, right? Because we like to do our research for this show. And it, like every business, I feel like it reaches a point where it can no longer be this one person operation. So when did you know it was time to build Monopoli Music Group? And what did that transition look like?
Probably the point where I was about to collapse. And then I realized this is not sustainable. I'll be honest, that was something that I've struggled with for many. I've always kind of flown solo. Yeah. Admittedly, I'm a kind of a controlling person in that, like, I'm like very type A. I'm very organized, very like, I know how to do it best. I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to get it done.
Yeah.
So that's certainly not served me well in like trying to, over the years, like when I need help on events, I didn't have those people to turn to. So yeah, it just got to a breaking point, like where essentially the business outgrew my own physical, mental, emotional capabilities. And I had to say enough is enough. Like, I truly need help. And whether it be behind the scenes, credit to my wife. My wife is literally like my number one assistant. She's constantly doing stuff in like 19 different, departments, whatever you want to call it, behind the scenes of my company.
Amazing.
So, even if it's just like, emotional support. I mean, she's active, very active. But yeah, I had to just get to the point where I was just like, okay, like in order for me to execute these events at the level that I know I'm capable of, some of these things need to be taken off my plate, So even if it's just like from an energy, energy is everything. So from an energy standpoint, if I'm constantly the one loading in everything and setting up everything, I've just kind of dipped into that, energy reserve. And now I'm trying to give the couple everything I have, but like you obviously have less because you've been there for 5 hours. You're a little bit exhausted. You simply hire an assistant.
Yeah.
They learn it, they get better. And now I'm less stressed, I'm less anxious. I have my energy. So it changes the whole game. And that's honestly something I haven't really done until just recently. Like these last couple of years is when I've been like, I need a team. Like I need other people to lean on. And it's not just from an event day perspective, but other DJs. And I've been like, okay, like if I have all these opportunities coming my way that I can't execute personally, I have these people who trust me. They fully trust me, my recommendations. They're trusting that like I'm not going to send them somebody that's not up to my standards. And now I've been able to then obviously put money in DJ's pockets and be like, hey, listen, it's a win-win for everyone. I'm keeping these clients and these relationships happy. DJs are making money. That's like always been my thing. Like I am pro DJ to the end. Like I want other DJs to succeed. I want to be able to somehow transition my career into something that can nurture the DJ community and kind of just make sure we preserve what's left of this craft. So, those are things I'm always thinking about. And again, like it's just that transition needed to happen. It's just like from a growth standpoint for not just my own personal brand, but my company, like it just reached a point where there was the ceiling. Yeah. And without the help of other people, I just wasn't going to break through that. So, and I think I'm reaching the point now where I need to expand it even further. And these are the growing pains that as business owners, we all face, the costs of bringing on additional people, what that means in terms of like what I'm willing to give control of away, so just delegate some of the things that I feel like, this is like I respond to emails, like the way I respond to emails, it's like my way. So like, do I want to give that away? Like you have like, these are things again, going back to like, just like maturing, these are things I think you reach a point where you have to have that difficult conversation with yourself.
I mean, you hit so many points, and I think something that's could resonate with so many entrepreneurs or solopreneurs, let's call it, because we all start somewhere, usually by ourselves. And I think one of the best quotes or phrases or sayings, I don't know what you want to call it, that I started to live by at a certain point, because traditionally I was that person, the perfectionist, I don't know, some people attribute it to my zodiac sign. They say it's a Virgo thing, whatever you're into, even when I lived alone, when I was a single guy, everybody would walk into my house like, is this a girl's house? Or like everything was like,
I got the same comments.
Yeah. Now with kids, it's like,
look at my office. Look at my office.
Yeah. I had to throw my hands up in the air sometimes and let go a little bit. But what I'm trying to get at that phrase is, don't let perfect get in the way of done. And sometimes we stop doing things altogether because it's quote unquote not perfect. And then we're just not doing it at all. And I'm not saying don't have a standard, don't have a level, don't have any of that. But like you said, you had this breaking point where we're just like, okay, this is not sustainable. I need to start letting some of those things go. And I mean, that's a big step. And what you're saying about the emails and stuff like that, I had that transition recently in the last couple of years where I brought on also like it's called like a executive assistant, somebody who could help me with some of that admin stuff that I actually still chime in on stuff when it's necessary. Like some stuff, it's like, Christian, you need to handle this. And sometimes it's like, hey, somebody needs a certificate of insurance. Like you could do that, assistant, like anybody could do that. But like I was doing it all too, like the certificate of insurance and the little email and like, what time are you going to arrive? Like, I don't know, just she can answer that email. Like
that can be standardized, like a standardized response. You should know. You should be able to look at the data and just
Right. 2 hours before, 3 hours or whatever. So you create standard operating procedures on the back end, but not to get lost in that. But I think that's a big step for anybody, because this is potentially for some entrepreneurs listening, that it gets to that point where delegation is going to be your best friend for multiple reasons, not just to grow your business, but to not feel burnt out as a creative, because you were getting there, Dan, where you're just kind of saying you're the anxious, the pressure, the stress. Now, with a little help, I'm sure you're a little bit more free flowing at these events again. You're kind of, the shoulders are down a little bit, like, okay, because I was there too, where you're like, you're so tense and uptight. By the time those doors are opening, you're just like, I don't even know what song to play right now. Like you're just there, and that's
you're like, let me just get through this next part. This is the next part. No, it absolutely, it's changed the game. Like, and again, now that energy is not wasted elsewhere. It's put where it should be put.
Yes,
There's a
exactly.
great book. I'm like drawing a blank on the name, and I'm looking at my bookshelf to see if I can find it. But there's essentially a book that talks about how like delegation is so important because we've got to where we are because of the things that we're great at. But as a business owner, you tend to take on all the things that are now associated with running a business, therefore pulling you away from the thing that you're great at, the thing that the real crux of why you have a successful business. And ultimately, you're spending all your time doing all these other administrative things, etc.,
Hmm.
and not the thing that got you there.
Yeah, it's
So,
true.
those that can delegate all those responsibilities and of course put the right people in place and then go back to focusing on that thing that they're great at, that's how you take your business to the next level and how you scale, etc.
Absolutely, absolutely. And maybe it's a different book, but I know one book that I believe I shared with you was "Buy Back Your Time" by Dan Martell.
Yes, that's still on my kitchen counter right
Uh,
now.
an amazing entrepreneur essentially is just, putting money in the things that are going to buy back the time that's going to be way more valuable. At the beginning, once again, even from an investment standpoint, a lot of people would be like, I can't afford that. But can you? Because did you run the numbers? Did you see like, what is it costing you to do emails all day versus maybe what you can hire somebody else to do the emails? And maybe create more business because now you're able to do more networking events or do something else that is essentially going to, 10x the amount that you're bringing into your business. But anyway, that's I think an important step that you took. And once again, it's something that feels a little uncomfortable and you're still going to have to go through that, Dan. Sorry, you're going to
Mhm.
have to go through those moments. But shout out to Dan's wife for helping out. And
Yes,
because my wife wants nothing to do
always.
with my business. She was like, look, I love you. If you get like 17 call outs, maybe I'll be there, but like not me, So shout out to Dan's wife because
She's
it
ready to
is,
be put on salary like
yeah.
yesterday. Like,
Yeah, it's not for everybody. This industry is not for everybody, and that's okay too. So you mentioned something about, this evolution into Monopoly Music Group, not only it being that transition point of you growing as a individual, as an entrepreneur, but also being a way to support other DJs. And I think that is such an important piece that, you're there to support other DJs. And I know from, not just what it says on your bio, but from what you do behind the scenes, that you are a mentor also to DJs and you like to help other DJs grow not just their income, but maybe something from a brand perspective, maybe something from a music perspective. And that seems like it's an important piece of who you are. But why? Like, where did that come from?
it probably started just because this journey for me has been a difficult one in that,
Mm.
like, I didn't have people to lean on when I was starting up. The questions that I had, I didn't have somebody to turn to get those questions answered. I had to just make those mistakes and fall on my face and figure it out. And I don't like that's not like a badge of honor. Like, I don't look at it like that. I look at it like, what could I have done differently to have found a mentor when I came up? And that would probably be my biggest piece of advice to somebody. Like be like adamant about finding somebody to be in your corner and answer these questions because it can literally jumpstart your career. It could immediately just like push you past all the potential pitfalls and all the obstacles that slow us down along the way. So it probably starts there just because again, like I didn't have that. So I'm like, I want to be this for other people. Like, cool, like DJing for 18 years, whatever it's been, is fantastic. But like if I'm not helping people, to me, that's like I'm still missing the mark. Obviously, I want to support my family and I love what I do and I love all the people I get to work with. But I still feel like there's another facet to what we do that's being missed, which is like that imprint. I care about the craft. I care about like, the origins of the craft.
Yeah.
Technology's changing, everything is shifting. The DJs that are coming up now, it's a whole different perspective on things. So I feel like we're getting pulled further and further away from like the true essence of what DJing is. So I want to do everything I can to kind of, while I'm here, continue to maintain that. And again, like without putting mentorship out there as a program or as some like tangible thing that can be purchased. Anytime people have hit me up, I am always more than willing to have conversations. I get DMs randomly from people being like, hey, what microphone do you recommend?
Mm.
I'll take the time to send them like a 3-minute voice note.
Wow.
And it's sure I'm a talker, so it's like easy for me, but like it's also because I genuinely want to help and I don't
Yeah.
want you to make a mistake. I don't want you to do something
Yeah.
stupid. I don't want to see that like, you use something that ended up like blowing up in your face, and then now it's cost you a bad review that could potentially set your career back. I mean, there's so many things. If I could just send you a 3-minute voice note that potentially just like has you avoid all of that, to me, that's invaluable. And it's a no-brainer for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's something I'm super passionate about. I just, again, 18 years of knowledge and experience is not something that to me should just be like, nah, like you got to learn the hard way. This is mine. Like I earned this. No, like I want you to have this. Like
Right.
that doesn't necessarily mean that person's going to be successful. Just because you have those, that information and kind of like those tips and tricks doesn't mean they're going to put it to practice. Doesn't mean they're going to put the work in. Doesn't mean they're going to build the relationships. So you're not really like giving them, this like shortcut, per se. Like they still got to do the work. So yeah, that's hopefully that answers your question. But yeah, like that's something I'm super passionate about. And hopefully again can lean into more over these next few years and, my eventual step away from the decks.
Yes. I mean, it's so interesting that you mentioned the mentor thing in that capacity, because I did the same thing. I learned the hard way. Sometimes still learn the hard way. Obviously, technology and some other things have helped, but I didn't get a work with a mentor per se till, I don't know, maybe like a year or two ago. And I've been doing this for like 20 years. And once again, it was something that maybe there's not as many out there as I thought there was. And then B, right, connecting with the right person who maybe you would like to learn something from, right? Because you can't just hook up with any mentor. It has to align with something that you maybe want to do, right? Because everybody's different. But then I think C, from just a being flat out honest point, sometimes, once again, going back to the investment you might have to make, if it is a monetary investment, you say, what is this going to do for me? Like, I'm going to pay somebody who's going to do the thing. And then, but like, if it's going to save you time, effort, headache, and this and that, looking back at my journey, man, I would have got one a long time ago, but I didn't know all these things, and I didn't know that it would be maybe worth it. And I didn't know, so I think it's so important to also be like, hey, like this could be something that can really be a game changer for my business. And let's say not even a business. Let's just say it's a craft that you're trying to get better at. Let's say you just want to invest in a mentor that's going to make you a better photographer, a better DJ, let's forget the business side. Just a better at what you do. That's too, because you can learn so many tips and tricks from people. And yes, YouTube University is a thing. People can learn a lot on that.
Oh, yeah.
Unfortunately, I didn't really have much YouTube when I started out DJing. It was like, I don't know, maybe one DJ on there. What's the British DJ that now he's like with the DJ algorithm?
Angelo?
Yeah, DJ Angelo
was a beast.
Yeah, he was a beast. He's throwback. Maybe he had a couple of but I couldn't even keep up with his videos. And then that was it. I didn't have much of that. But either way, working with a one-on-one person to kind of really help you troubleshoot those things. And once again, I don't have a mentor business. I'm not selling anything either. It's just more of a like the importance and value of something that sometimes people don't see. And so I think it definitely can help you as an entrepreneur to get to that next level quicker and also more efficiently, right? Because we want to do things not just in a quicker fashion, because quicker is not always better, but also just how we're going to make this efficient, right? You just save yourself a lot of research time. You just save yourself a lot of making mistakes, or I don't know, it could be something as simple as like, you didn't get the right LLC, but you didn't get the thing. It could put you back. Now you're wasting time.
Oh yeah.
So I love that you're doing that for the community. It's needed. Like I said, I don't really see a lot of passionate DJ mentors out there with your skill set and what you do, and just your genuine care, right? Like you said, you care for the craft. You love it to a point where you're also trying to preserve it as much as possible. And look, let's be honest, Dan, things like you said have evolved, are going to continue to evolve with technology. And with stems and with this and with that. And I don't want to get too technical here because our viewers are from all different areas here, but that's going to be, very relevant to any other area that we're working in. You have to keep going with that. But, I love that you do that, and hopefully you can continue to do that for so many others. And now I'm going to send you a lot of DMs now that I know that you give free advice on Instagram.
Oh, come on.
I'm going to hit you
I'm
up.
usually DMing you asking you questions. And that's another good point, is just like be willing to ask questions. Like, I think early on, my ego was also playing a part in that. Oof. Like, even when I met somebody that was like, wow, I can learn from you,
Yeah.
Just being willing to be like, hey, like, can I just pick your brain for 2 seconds? Or
Yeah.
be willing to like give first and then maybe ask for, their time and attention.
Yeah.
That's a big component, because like a lot of people are just their ego doesn't allow them to
What
simply ask for
what
help.
I what is I don't once again, I don't wanna go to the male, female. Is it a guy thing? Is it an ego thing? Because I just wanna say maybe in the last couple of years I've gotten better. I am the worst at asking for help, and I don't know if I learned it from my dad who never asked for, but I don't know what it is, but for the longest time, I was the same way. Like, don't ask any questions, don't bother nobody, you're gonna be an inconvenience, or is it gonna be a
Yeah,
stupid
yeah.
question? Like, whatever goes through your mind about it, and then you don't ask the thing, but then now you're struggling. Like, I don't
Yep.
know.
I
Is that
can't answer that. I don't know. It's
yeah.
it's definitely it's definitely got to be partially a male thing. Just our overall stubbornness.
Yeah.
I can think back to my dad going into Home Depot, and I'm trailing, angry that we're at Home Depot.
Yeah.
He doesn't know where the thing is that he wants,
Mm.
and that person there was a employee, and we went up and down every aisle and still can't find the thing. He never
Yeah.
stopped to ask for directions. It's just, it all goes back. It's just
Yeah. Same. Yeah, I've experienced it. Yeah, same. The whole directions lost. I don't know, but I've definitely gotten better at asking for help and
same, same.
saying like, before you're like, oh, is this person gonna think I don't know anything because I'm asking this? Oh, who cares what they think? Just ask.
Yeah, exactly. You have to get to a point where you just
Yeah.
let people think what they're gonna think. Like, again, as long as your question's genuine, you're just trying to improve. You're also willing to like give. If there's any value that you can also provide right back to them, obviously do so. But yeah, it's definitely something that I've had to improve on for sure.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I think for anybody in this game of entrepreneurship and business, and whether you're in some type of entertainment world, wedding world, doesn't matter. You're either going to have to find the person who has the answers or hire the person that has the answers, or there's going to have to be something that you got to do if you keep wanting to break through these to the next level, right? You could stay at the same level that you're at, and that if that's what you're okay with, that's okay too. But if you want to keep pushing the boundaries and keep breaking to the next point, you're going to have to figure new things out. And sometimes you can't figure it out on your own. And that's the point where you might need to find somebody who already has figured it out, right? Because some of the stuff that we're doing is our own, but some of the stuff that we're doing is not necessarily stuff that you and I invented. Let's be honest, Dan. Like,
But yeah.
a lot of the skills that we're using, a lot of things are like, we didn't invent it, but we also need some maybe help learning it. And sometimes that's from somebody else,
Right. It's the implementation, the execution. That's the part that, you can't pull up a video on like how you got your business to where it's at today. Like there's really not one tangible video that you can watch to communicate that. That's a lot of little things working behind the scenes. So those are the things that just, it's not a let me learn how to do an XYZ scratch or, blend two records together. It's so much more nuanced than that. And you can only get that through having conversations, through just simply, experiencing things yourself and just learning.
Yeah, that's it. And the journey will always continue. You'll always be a lifelong learner. And when you feel like you can't learn anymore, it's probably time to quit, because that's not a good sign either when you think you know it all.
Yeah. Or put
Dan,
yourself in another room
yeah.
with people, then you're in the wrong room essentially. Then you need
Mm,
to go somewhere where you're surrounded by people who know more than you. If you know the most, if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room.
yep. Yep. Change that room. Be the dumb guy in the room. Yeah, it's uncomfortable, but you need to go be the dumb guy in the room. Dan, you work a very unconventional schedule, and not because I'm a fellow DJ and I know this, just because you also do the sports thing and you have all these other things going on, weekday, weekends, not just a Friday to Sunday thing. Something that entrepreneurs I feel struggle with sometimes is not only balancing that, but what is a lesson you've learned about managing that lifestyle, but then also you have a family. You have a beautiful baby boy. Well, I don't know if you want to call him a baby anymore, but you know what I mean. And a wife and things going on as a normal person, but then you have all these other things to manage.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly not something I would say I've mastered or perfected. It's a constant trying to find balance and trying to, be a husband and a father first, and a business owner second, and then a DJ third, like, and then oftentimes like, an individual last, like, like the things that are truly, and again, not that that's a bad thing. It's just like, that's, normal in how we're trying to when you have a family and you especially with children in the house, like there's just you're being pulled in 19 different directions. Obviously, again, I'm very routine oriented. I have my structure of how I organize my day, when things are going to get done, when I have time for meetings and when I have time for business related things, and then the creative side of what we do. And I just try to be as, disciplined as possible when it comes to when they're home, I'm with them. And I try to, put the phone on do not disturb. People hate me because my phone is like almost always on do not disturb because if I'm at an event, if I'm with my family, there's
Guilty.
very small windows in there where it's not like I don't
Right.
want to be distracted. And it's hard now, of course, now with social media. So, I would just say that it's just routine and just really trying to just be self-aware, be present. When they're with me, I don't want to take that for granted. None of this matters. I'm doing it for them. You know what I mean? Like, at the end of the day, who cares how much money I made or what things I've accomplished? If I wasn't present to make memories with my family,
Yeah.
it doesn't even matter.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's hard because you're trying to provide at the same time of what you're doing, but every time, it's the fast forward to your deathbed moment. You don't really think about much of this stuff. You just probably are gonna think about them, your wife, your kid, and maybe your mom or your dad. But it's like you're not gonna really think about championship that the Knicks won at
Sure.
that moment.
It's true. Yeah.
Maybe
it's
when you get
true.
to heaven, you might go back and be like, "Yo, what's up, man?" Play with some of the old players. But yeah, in those last moments, it's probably not the top of mind, which is, I know, sounds dark, a little dark sometimes, but it is that real reflection of what matters. And look, I haven't mastered it either, so I'm not sitting here and saying that I did. And Dan was very vulnerable and say, "Hey, look, I didn't master this thing either, so it's okay if you didn't master the thing." We drive ourselves crazy with guilt and other things as well. We're not perfect. We live in a society that things are changing so fast and we have a lot of distractions in general. So we could only try our best, but definitely having a little bit of a routine if possible. And just, I call it, like, I have like little blocks where it's like, okay, these are usually when I do my client meetings, or this is usually when I do this. And yeah, things kind of shuffle around sometimes if they need to, right? Emergencies happen, but you kind of keep that a little bit. Or like people, I was like, especially now that I have like the 9-month-old, like I'm on do not disturb maybe like 23 hours out of the 24.
Yep.
Because with the spam callers too, they woke them up one day and I'm like, nah, I was like, I can't even do that.
Well, it's also for me, it's like I know myself well enough to know that like I'm the type that I have to answer every text. I
Yeah.
have to clear out my email. So I can't see those things because then I get that little itch
Right.
that I need to respond. I need to check the email. Like, what could that be? This person needs a response right away. So
Yeah.
that's the only way to prevent myself from just like, again, constantly being pulled away, distracted, like the dog, the ball just keeps going past. And so I literally, it's like you have to also be aware of your own little triggers and personality traits. Like that's just something for me. Like that's the only way is if I just put it on do not disturb and don't look at it, so that I can just stay present, or even just stay on task, right? Because it's not just necessarily time with them that I'm trying to stay off the phone, but like if I'm trying to work on music, if I'm trying to work on content or work on some creative idea, you constantly, you're taking yourself out of that like, that flow state that we're all trying to seek when we're working.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I think the biggest takeaway is that it's just never going to be perfect. It's,
No.
nobody's found that balance. You talk to other entrepreneurs, it's a constant thing. And when you add the layers of being married and then having a family, it's even more difficult, trying to get to the gym and take care of yourself and eat right and all these different things. Like it's incredibly difficult. All we can do is do the best job that we can, just every day.
Wake up and try. That's what I say. I didn't make it to the gym today, then, but maybe tomorrow. So
there's still time in the day, Christian.
yeah, I gotta go pick up my daughter in a little bit,
See?
and then
You see?
yeah. I like it. Maybe 11 o'clock at night, I'll go. It's never too late. So before we end the show, we usually like to do a little rapid fire round at the end. So it's just more of like what comes top of mind. Not necessarily needs to be an elaborate answer. So the first one is, what is the one detail guests remember most about an event? Okay. Are you being biased? No.
Were they? And that's, in my opinion, that's what people leave talking about. Like, not necessarily music, but just what what music does to the experience.
Okay. Okay, if you weren't in the music and events industry, right? Like a DJ, what's a career you think you'd be pursuing?
Probably something video related, because
Ooh,
I dabbled quite a bit into video production prior to learning DJing. And I
okay.
still tap into that sometimes with content and stuff. And I genuinely enjoy it.
Interesting. Okay, so that's probably what's helped out your OF page because you're really into. No, I'm kidding, guys. He doesn't have
The
he doesn't-
production value is
I was like, this is top notch. Wait, how would I know that? I didn't subscribe. Anyway, the last rapid fire. So then, what is something you feel instantly kills the vibe at an event?
God, there could be so many things. At an event in general, not specific to a wedding.
I mean, you could do general events because you do all different kinds. It could be a wedding, whatever your mind goes to. It's really kind of like that angle, like whatever pops up.
Probably just like maybe an overall lack of vision for like what the ultimate goal is of said event.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Because I think
Right.
that can apply across the board when you just have like an unclear expectation of like what do we want here? Like especially when you're bringing in a DJ, like what are we trying to accomplish? Because it's not always like make everybody dance, make everybody go crazy on the dance floor.
Right.
So I think when I know for us, when we lack that expectation, it makes it really difficult for us to do our job.
That's actually a really good point. I like that because it is true that not every event is the same. And I think people do have that, let's call it myth, that we're DJs and we do this every weekend. So we're going to go do the same thing at their event. That's not the case because every event kind of takes on its own personality and its own characteristics. And yeah, when there's no clarity and vision, I think that could definitely kill the vibe because you're just piecemealing it together and kind of
just
praying
throwing
for the
darts.
best.
We're just throwing darts and
Yeah.
we have limited time to work with. So you can't possibly nail it without having that clear vision.
Yes, I like that one. Dan, our last question here, and it's not necessarily part of the rapid fire, so answer as you will. What makes a client the right fit for you?
What makes the client the right fit? I think for me, it's, and I mentioned this earlier, like the clients that truly appreciate music. They just have an appreciation. They enjoy music, like they actively listen to music, because I think that those are the people that, there's a difference between hearing and listening. Those are the people that actively listen to music. I think those are the ones that intuitively appreciate what we do more. They maybe they don't understand the technical side of it, but they can pick up on the little things.
Yes.
And again, like those little things to me matter. So I think that creates a perfect alignment between myself and a client. It's just, they see the stuff that I put on social media or even like a mix, and there's just an appreciation there of the extra stuff that I do. And just the extra effort and trying to, like I say to people, like make things make sense.
Yeah.
Like as a DJ, like we're trying to make it all make sense. Like you want all these different styles of music. You have your 85-year-old grandmother, but you have like your 18-year-old cousin. How do we make this all make sense? Like that's what I got you. Like that's what I do.
Yeah.
So, but I think it starts with people just like truly like loving music, appreciating music, and not just being like, just play anything, we just want music. Like we're not like super picky.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, okay, well.
Right. But then don't you love it when they say that line and then you're just like, oh, you throw out like an artist or genre that you think that they wouldn't like. You're like, oh no, yeah, but not that. Don't play that. I'm like, okay. Then
Sounds
that's
an
what
awful lot like when I ask my wife what she wants to eat for dinner.
Exactly. Exactly. You pick,
It
and
could
you
be
pick
anything. You pick, and then I'm like, okay, cool. Let's get XYZ.
Yeah.
Just anything but that.
Yeah, I'm not really a fan. Yeah, I mean, you could definitely go down that lane, but that's so very true. Dan, where are you most active? Where can people find you after looking you up?
Of course, Instagram and TikTok at Monopoli Music. Also on YouTube, trying to push more into the YouTube world and doing some long form content, showcasing all the things that we do, especially behind the scenes leading up to an event. All that leads into that eventual successful event. It doesn't just happen like that. There's so much that we do just to prepare. So I'm trying to grow that. That's probably the biggest thing that I'd want to promote is YouTube.
Okay.
Follow me on YouTube so that I can, because it's a lot of work putting out that long form content. And of course, like, Mixcloud as well. I try to put out as many live mixes as I can.
Cool. Amazing. Man, I hate to do this, but this is my show. So I could do it. because I
You're
was
the boss.
closing it, but I just have one more question now that you mentioned that. I've been seeing a lot of videos on people kind of bashing the whole content behind the scenes stuff that some of the people in our industry are doing. How do you feel about that?
I haven't seen that, but again, I mean, you have to operate without caring what people think. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like, I think if I had to point something out that I don't necessarily like is that obviously we do tend to kind of like, you know, mimic other trends and other things that we see. But you just, you know, you said this earlier, like as long as you're still staying authentic to like your way of doing things, like how do you make it different because
Right.
it's yours, you know? We all set up the same way. We all break, you know, this is what I brought to XYZ event today.
Right.
As long as it's still authentic to you, how you operate, put your style, your stamp on it, I don't have a problem with it. But again, I think we should all be evolving and trying to figure out like as things shift and everybody starts to move left. I'm not afraid to then be like, all right, maybe this isn't the direction I want to go in because now this whole crowd is with me. I'm
Yeah.
gonna go that way. Like I'll see y'all in a little bit. So
Yeah.
I think everybody needs to always be looking out for like when these things have run their course and we're gonna, you know, maybe start making your own impact somewhere else, your own imprint.
Okay. So the content evolution thing. Well, Dan, thank you so much for squeezing us in today and making time for the show. For anybody listening and watching, thank you so much for tuning in once again to The Right Fit. We appreciate you guys. And don't forget to check us out also on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple. We are trying to get us out on all those channels as well. And we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.